In 1888, Cecil Rhodes, and that's definitely a name to remember, Cecil Rhodes, received a concession for mining rights from King Lobengula of the Ndebele people. Cecil Rhodes then presented this concession to the United Kingdom and asked them to grant a royal charter for his British South Africa Company, the BSAC, over Matabele land and its subject states. And Rhodes basically negotiated his way, kind of edging his way through, and received a concession for the whole of Zambezia. And that was a pretty large area. It was the entire area between the Limpopo River and Lake Tanganyika, and I'm probably butchering both of those names, but just bear with me. It was a large area. And he promoted the colonization of that region and British control over labor and precious metals and the mineral resources that that region had. In 1895, the BSAC named that region Rhodesia in honor of Cecil Rhodes. Southern Rhodesia was the region below the Zambezi River, which, by the way, re-rafted on the traveling school semester, which meant that we rafted through Class 5 rapids, which translates to pretty freaking sweet. So below the Zambezi, that was Southern Rhodesia, and that's modern-day Zimbabwe, and above the Zambezi, that was Northern Rhodesia, and that's modern-day Zambia. In any case, the Shona people launched many revolts that today we refer to them as Chimurengas, another name that I'm probably butchering, against the occupation of foreigners in their lands. However, most of them failed. In return, the colonizers reacted with settlement en masse, which basically meant that they did a land reform and favored the Europeans. That in turn led to the Shona and the Ndebele people and other indigenous peoples of that region being displaced by the thousands. Incidentally, the Ndebele people of Zimbabwe are the same as the Zulu of South Africa, just another division between ethnicities that borders created. In 1953, the consolidation of the two Rhodesias, so Southern Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia, and Nyasaland, which is modern-day Malawi, occurred, and that was called the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. That failed due to revolts that spread throughout the region, and it was once again divided into 3 colonies. So back to Southern Rhodesia. On November 11th, 1965, Ian Smith created the Unilateral Declaration of Independence, which the British took as an act of rebellion, but they didn't really bother implementing their power back into the region. So it was sort of like, thanks Ian Smith, like a first step towards becoming a little more independent. In 1970, the government declared itself a republic, and hence the Republic of Rhodesia was born. However, the opposition began to rise. It was the 60s, once again, after World War II, and once again, independence was in the mind of all Africans. Therefore, the ZAPU, the Zimbabwe African People's Union, and the ZANU, the Zimbabwe African National Union, were created, and they were 2 of the biggest opposition parties. In 1980, Zimbabwe got its independence, and, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, Joshua Nkomo was the leader of ZANU, and Robert Mugabe was the leader of ZAPU. And in 1980, the year of independence, Robert Mugabe's ZAPU party won a landslide victory. So the first few years, Robert Mugabe had a lot of supporters. However, soon revolts. There was a lot of revolting because people in certain areas, the Shona people, didn't want the ZAPU to rule them, blah blah. And so something similar to a civil war broke out. How did Robert Mugabe handle the situation? He got his North Korean trained 5th Brigade and killed 20,000 Matabeles. 20,000 Matabeles. So again, we have another country that from the get-go had, it's not the start that you want to have when you're forming a new country. In any case, the ZAPU and ZANU eventually signed agreements, and they became one, and that was the birth of ZANU-PF, which is the ruling party today. And again, ZANU-PF stands for Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front. And Robert Mugabe is still the head of the ZAPU-PF. He's considered a dictator nowadays, inarguably, and I'm actually going to get into that right now.